So Al Jazeera has turned out to be a great news organization. I've been watching them for a while, and for a while I thought, logging into their site, the FBI probably track you. They probably do, but they do that for all the sites. But as I started watching it, it was funny because it really did. I guess after Bush appeared on it, it was like, okay, this is okay for being mainstream. Use this as a mirror a little bit. Auntie made me this shirt. I love this. My favorite shirt. But anyway, it's really great. I mean, the BBC is just a shadow of what it once was still. But I did expect it when I started watching it to be kind of biased, to be more biased, less journalist. Everybody has a bias, but there is such a thing as a tradition of journalistic ethics that every once in a while raises its head. But I expected them to be kind of biased, kind of like Russia Today is, which I also watch. It's kind of like, it's biased like, it's not as bad as Fox News has gotten, but it's kind of in that category of bias. But there's this idea that if you follow news from various biased sources that have their angle, you can get the bigger picture, and hopefully they would all bring up a spectrum of facts. Of course, the problem with that is there's certain facts they all filter out, and so you think you're getting a spectrum. Really, there's stuff dampened out. But anyway, another subject. Well, no, that is the subject. Fox News has gotten really terrible at that. I mean, like 5 years ago it was bad enough, but you could use it in that way. Now it's just like they're just whining and moaning and like the biggest. Obama's the most socialist and communist person ever. Do they even know what real communists are like? Who are they fooling? Not themselves, probably. The American people, who have no sense of scale to these such things. But anyway, so they're covering, Al Jazeera is covering the story that a ring of all Afghan and Pakistani British citizens were in this child sex trafficking ring and are getting, convicted on these child grooming laws and stuff. And evidently, like half of the people are, getting convicted of such offenses are, Pakistanis and whatnot. And so the British judge is like, this has nothing to do with that. What nationality? And Al Jazeera, coming from the Arabic perspective and stuff, and a Muslim perspective, theoretically, though it's very secular in the way it presents news, you think, you get used to, well, it was terrible what they did, but you can't make it a racial thing. The guy was already saying that. No, their whole thing was, well, and they had a guy from, what was he called again? Some human rights, Middle Eastern kind of culture, human rights organization. I forget. But anyway, he's like, this is terrible, and yeah, our culture has to take ownership of this. And the fact that these guys thought these little white girls were worthless plays a role, and yeah, it's culture. We have to own it and solve it. And it's like, how often do you see that anymore? I mean, here's the Western press is going like, no, pay no attention. It's not having to do with that. And they're not like jumping on a bandwagon of stereotypes. They're just getting community leaders and community activists that they have talk on these subjects include that, yeah, there's a component of what we should do and culturally how we can address it. And it's not saying that culture is that way, like a majority of that culture thinks that way. No, it's an undercurrent, but those are those people's aunts and uncles, and there's a way to get in on that culture and affect things like that when you have a disproportionate kind of result happening. And I don't know how that story plays out, who really should, or whether those were biased reporters. It's not like I just take Al Jazeera's report, word for it, and I haven't seen anybody else even cover this story. But I did think that it showed how Al Jazeera is really, it's as far as I know, it's the best, nationally wide stream news. There's independent papers and things and independent journalists and stuff that I don't want to say there's the top, but I mean of the BBC, CNN, ABC, The Guardian, any of the news, Al Jazeera is really doing awesome. Russia TV is being entertaining, what with their show by Julian Assange and stuff, and they, even though they're biased, they come from a non-U.S. apologist angle that fills in some perspective. And they cover, they're covering, Russia Today is covering, Putin and his controversy and the accusations of the kind of machine that he has run. So, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I might have mentioned it before, but it's really gotten so obvious it is worth mentioning. And again, it's not to promote them like they need promotion. It's just this, I believe in this kind of setting yourself on record about things like this online, And so it's just become kind of obvious that Al Jazeera is such a good news source. I think that there should be saturation of awareness that they are a news source people should add to this spectrum of news that they collect, whatever that might be for them. Cheers.